We're going to jump straight into Kieran's session, which is about muscles, the workings of the hand.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kieran. I am a senior here at CMU studying biology and psychology. And today we will be exploring the anatomy of our hands and how they work, as well as learning how to make our very own finger to make a full-on model hand. To make the hand, you will need the bag that we have sent to you called Muscles, the Working of the Hand, and a Sharpie and a pair of scissors. So while I'm doing this presentation, feel free to grab it and pick it up as we are going, so that when we get to that part, you'll have all the materials you need. So now we'll get started on what the basics of a hand is so that we can be able to build one later on. So what comes first? So our first and initial layer of our hand are the bones. In our hand, we have 27 individual bones, and our wrist is made up of 2 of these bone groups. The wrist is 2 parts of a joint, which allow us to flex and extend our hands, as well as tilt them. They have 2 types of bones within them. The carpus bones, which help form the lower part of the wrist joint, and the metacarpus bones, which form the bridge between the wrist and the fingers. In addition to those, the third type of bones that are in our hands are the phalanges. A thumb has 2 phalanges and the rest have 3, and that is what forms our joints. When we are making our model hand, as you can see, our straws will be made of bones, and these little nicks in them would show that the joints or the difference in between each bone and from each other. What comes next? Next comes our cartilage. Our cartilage is the connective tissue that has the end of our bones, and it has 2 main roles. One of these roles is to act as a shock absorber and cushion bones through load-bearing action. So this means when you're picking up something heavy, when you're doing anything, holding anything in your hands, it prevents the bones from injuring each other or causing breakage in their bones. It also has another purpose. It also allows for bones to glide over each other so that the joint flexes and straightens. Next, what we have are the ligaments, and the ligaments are the connective tissues that connect the bones and support them and keep them in place. They basically prevent sideways movement of the joint and prevent your joint from bending backwards. Sadly, we cannot show this in our model, and that is why many of these joints, as you can see, can bend all the way back. This is not how a normal hand works. Next, we have our muscles. So in our hand, our muscles have a variety of different roles. They control the base of our thumb, enable our thumb to touch the tips of the 4 other fingers, and they control the movement of our pinky finger. These muscles are worm-like, and they help bend the metacarpal phalangeal joints and extend our fingers. So it seems that majority of you thought that there were 15 muscles, but actually in our fingers we don't have any muscles, and this is basically because of tendons. So what are tendons? Tendons are these connective bands of tissues that attach the muscles to the bones, enabling them to move the bones. So in our model that we will be making, the strings or the floss that we have given you will take the role of the tendons, and anything that causes our hand to bend will be due to the tendons. And in our model, we will have our own hands will be following the role of the muscles. So as we pull our hand, our tendons pull the bones, and that'll cause our finger to bend. This is what we see. In our hand, we start off with the bones. Then the cartilage is added beneath and between bones. Then after cartilage comes our ligaments and our muscles. The ligaments showed as these band-like things, and the muscles are the red. And lastly, after that, we have our tendons, which connect our muscles to our bones, which are the blue parts that you see in the diagram. What is the role of our muscles in our hand? Why do we need to know this? When we are making our model hand, basically, this is the grip. We want to have a grip. We want to be able to use it the way our hand will be used. And so we need to understand the grips so that we could be able to replicate it in our model hand. So there are two types of grips. The first type of grip is the power grip. This is the one that is most likely the one that our model hand will have. The power grip allows the hand to lift heavy objects. It could be a sphere, it could be a cylinder, and this object has the long flexor tendons pull the fingers around it so that they grab the object. Some examples of this in our day-to-day life is lifting weights or catching a ball. The second type of grip is the precision grip. This is not likely to happen in our hand because it requires such precise markings of our bones and our muscles working together. So what does the precision grip do? It allows the hand to work precisely, like when sewing or writing. These all require a thumb and index finger to work together, and sometimes like tweezers. So the reason that ligaments prevent the fingers from bending to the back and the sides is because we are not likely to have a strong grip if it was moving in every other direction. Our grip is due to the fact that our hands can only move in one direction and that they all can go together. So let's ask some
Hey,
questions.
Kieran,
Yes.
we do have a question in the chat. The question is, I know that the ligaments prevent fingers from bending to the back and sides, but why is that necessary?
Yes, so that's what, yes. So basically, the reason that ligaments prevent our fingers from going backwards is because to create a grip, all of our muscles in our hands have to go in the same direction to be able to grab something. If we had them going backwards, it would be harder for us to make more grips, and it would cause our brain takes a lot of information from our fingers and controls a lot of it. And it would take a lot more space in our brain to have so many different varieties of movement for the hands other than this front grip that may not be useful in our life. So that is why our ligaments prevent it from happening, because it would take too much energy to go the other way and be able to control it well. So for my second question, one of our big parts of our hand is our thumb. And so are we the only ones with opposable thumbs? Opposable thumbs have a lot of uses. Ten more seconds to get your answer in. It seems that most of you got the answer correct. It is false. We are not the only ones with opposable thumbs. And for my next question, how many muscles control the thumb? As we are talking about muscles in the greater scheme. So, in terms of what you guys thought, I see that most of you guys think that there are 6 muscles that control the hand. But actually, there are 9 muscles. So, other than humans, other animals that have opposable thumbs are a panda, opossums, koalas, and gorillas. And thumbs are pretty interesting. They are controlled by 3 major nerves and 9 hand muscles. As I said earlier, the hand attracts 25% of the motor power of the brain, and 4% of that is actually dedicated to our thumbs, as they have such important use. So, now that we learned about the hands, why don't we take out our kits and go through how to make a model finger? All right, is everyone ready? Materials you need. For right now, you'll need a straw, a marker, a pair of scissors, and your floss, and a needle. Most of those things should be in your kit already, except for the scissors and the marker. So how does this work? So basically, you take your straw, you draw a straight line down the center of the straw. And it might be easy to take a paper and use that as an edge so that when you make the line, it is straight. Once you have your straight line, you can take your finger and put it across the thumb, put it across a finger, sorry, and mark the places where your joint, where your finger would bend. So you'll make 3 lines like that, like so. Once you have your lines, you can then take your scissors and around those lines, create these little triangles. So what do these triangles look like? It's easy if you push down your finger on the area that you want to cut and cut a line like this. And repeat that on the other side.
Sorry, wait, can you go back a few steps?
Yes, of course. Where did you get lost?
So I know you have to like draw the straight line on the straw, but then what?
So then that is when you put your finger across the straw and where your joints are or where your finger bends, you mark those places on that straight line.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions about what step we're on and what, if anything's confusing? Cool. So once you have the lines and you have your scissors, cut a triangle around the shape. So this is my triangle. And we have to remove the small cut that we have made out of the straw. So either you could pull it apart as I am doing here, or you could cut it out. Once we have the cut pulled out, we can take our floss and we can make it, I would say 2 lengths of what the length of the straw is. So 1 and 2. Once we have our thread, we take our needle and obviously we thread it through as we do with needles, which can be kind of difficult because I'm kind of struggling here, but it's great. Here we go. We have our needle on our floss. We make a knot at the end, of course, so that the needle does not fall off. But
we only just got to the making the triangles, so can you go back to them?
yes, so once you've made your triangle, we have to thread the floss onto the needle. Are you struggling with making the triangle?
I just want to interject really quick. If you are also having trouble following along, we do have an instructions sheet PDF that's uploaded already on Canvas that might help people follow along. And if you also have issues, it'll be great to just, if you feel comfortable, to also show your video and show us the step that you're at so that we can help troubleshoot any problems as well.
Thank you, Ashley. Once you've made the cut, we have to insert the needle. So how do we do this? This is kind of tricky. So when you take your needle, you have to try to insert it in underneath the cut that you made and push it through. So you have to push it underneath and through so that you can make a hole, because it's a lot more difficult to try to poke a hole downwards than it is upwards, because you have a lot more strength when you're pushing upwards. Once you have that, you can push it diagonally through, like so, so that when you push it through, you can pull it out the other end. And once you've done that, please make a knot at the other end. I have had many times finding that it will fall out. And once you have your knot at the other end, you can take your thumbtack that should be in the package we sent you, and put that right above that knot so that, or right on that knot so that the knot won't fall out.
Sorry, wait, can you just show how you thread the, you put it through again? You put the needle through like the straw again?
Yes, the first time or the second time?
The first time.
Yeah. So when you take your needle and you have your straw, you push it upwards so that it goes up like this. It's going through that notch that you made, up into the straw.
Can you go back to the step with the straw? Because I'm still confused on how to cut these triangles.
Yeah, so if you're having a lot of trouble with this, there is a video that goes step by step with this, but to cut out the straw, you take your straw, push it down, and that line that you made, you just make 2 cuts like this. And then it pops off.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to show up.
Yes, that is exactly how it works. Thank you. That looks amazing. So,
I'm good at figuring things out myself.
yes,
I
that
see you're
is
supposed to put the
really
little black loopy thing on the end so you can,
it's easier to pull.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's for. So yes, so to push the straw underneath, we go through, we pull it through, we make a knot at the end, stick a blue tack on it so that it does not fall, and then just throw the needle down the straw. And it comes out the other end. And that is how you make one joint. And so that is just repeated 2 more times to make your full finger. One of the things I did want to share is that while you're making your hands, there are many things that went wrong when I was first learning how to make my hand. A lot of times, yes, of course, once the needle is threaded, sorry, it's kind of hard to get this off once it's gone in. So once you've threaded the needle, you push up and around like so, and then once that is done, you push down and pull it through. And then you push it down again into the needle, the straw.
And like Karen mentioned, all of these instructions are on the Canvas page, which you all have access to, so you'll be able to go through it step by step, slowly on your own.
And one thing that I just want to talk about before we break is that what we are doing is basically troubleshooting an aspect of making a hand. And while you're making your hand, there were things that went wrong with mine. When I was doing it, I had issues having all three joints bend at the same time. And the way that we figure out as engineers, as making a model, is through the engineering design process. And what does that mean? It means you make a hypothesis on what you think would work. And for me, that was like, I think if I were to make the joints the same part as like where my finger joints match, I will be able to make a hand. I will be able to bend at those points and make a finger. Then you create some sort of you try to make that work. You do the steps that I've shown you and you see whether that works. And sometimes it doesn't. And so this is a cycle that we do with with this design process. And so it's as we are doing it, we are having trouble making these things. So what do you guys think would be good ideas to make this easier for you, and how, using the stuff that I showed you in my PowerPoint before, um, how can you improve this? How could you perhaps make it easier for the needle to go through? How can you make it easier for it to bend? And as I think a great example of this process was Rohan figuring out that the black circle could be used to make it easier for the muscle, the tendon, to be pulled. Do you guys have any ideas?
Wait, one idea is to make it easier to pick up things. If you were to put electrical tape on all the places other than joints, it would give it more friction, so it would pick things up better.
Yes, exactly. So when you're making your hand, whether it be after this session or later on in the next couple of weeks, just think through this. And I'm sure whatever you come up with will be amazing. And I'd like to see that. So if you could, if you want to, if you could email me or the National Biomechanics email. I'll put it in the chat. And thank you for joining my session. If you have any questions, you can email me at the email I put in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kieran. That was a ton of fun.